Welcome to Bethel Backstage. Glad you've taken a moment. I encourage you to stay and talk with us for a while. We're excited every couple times every month here to be able to share a conversation with our church family and really for anyone who would listen to be able to talk about some things going on in ministry, some things we've been talking about as a church family. And today I'm joined by two incredible guests who are not guests to our church family because they have had a long time in ministry. And we want to talk about what it is to have faithfulness, have endurance, have longevity in a ministry calling. In pastoral ministry, maybe specifically in our experiences, but really it applies across any ministry area across the way. So would you introduce yourselves? And I'll introduce myself as well. My name is Ben. I'm a pastor here at our Hobart Portage campus. And just so you get the comparison, I have been in ministry for 11 years as an adult. Served longer than that perhaps, but maybe none of that counts. We'll decide later. How about you?
Gary Butler, pastor of pastoral care, and been in ministry for 54 years.
54 years. And many of those years, 18 or so of those years have been in one place here, right at our main campus here at Bethel Church.
Yes, last 18 years right here.
One place. I love it. Pastor Steve.
I'm Steve DeWitt, senior pastor here at Bethel Church. And Gary, I'm just going to note that to be on this means that we're the old guys. Congratulations.
I'm used
It's such
to
an
that.
honor, you know.
Well, let me tell on you for a second then. We're maybe having a podcast here talking about longevity in ministry because in this month at Bethel Church, we're celebrating and really honoring the fact that you've been our senior pastor for 25 years. In ministry longer than that, but 25 years as our senior pastor. Thank you.
It's been 10 of the greatest years of my life.
Well, we'll let that one slide for now. The last year, 6 months especially since I've been on the team, have been the hardest, I know. So we'll move past that all. You know, when we talk about longevity, I don't think we're talking merely about surviving, like gritting our teeth and hating every second of it, or like merely not getting kicked off. You know, ideally, we want to thrive in our callings. We want to feel alive in what we're doing, and we want to last. But maybe I'm assuming a question here. Is it even a goal to have longevity in ministry, to, in a calling, be able to be faithful for a long time in a place, in a team, in a family, in a church? Is there a benefit there?
I think it's an admirable goal. I think it doesn't obviously work for every person, and you have to just be willing to let God direct you through it. In my case, I kind of reinvented myself 3 times, starting with youth and music, moving on to senior pastor, and now to pastoral care. That's how you survive 54 years. So you kind of reinvent.
Constantly learning and growing.
Yeah, but it's not always God's plan to keep a man in the same place all the time. You have to be sensitive to, is God calling you and directing you to stay? And if he does, then stick with it.
Sure.
Yeah,
Sure.
no, that's certainly true. You look at the ministry of the Apostle Paul, and God's will for him was to be in Corinth a while, be in Ephesus in a while, be at Philippi in a while, and so God's callings are his own, and he is sovereign over them. There are definitely, though, advantages to long-term ministry that a short-term ministry never quite gets to. There's something about generational pastoring. You know, you marry, you bury, you dedicate children. You're with people in their ups and downs. There's a trust and a relationship that's forged over time in the hard times and in the good times that is deeply enriching, I think, to the pastor and to the congregation. It's been attributed to various people, but the saying goes that, you know, don't overestimate what you can do in 1 year and don't underestimate what you can do in 5. Often, I think when you're younger, you assume that you can, in very short order, you know, whip this place into shape and we're going to be the best church in the history of Christendom. But then you get into the pastoring and the rigorous work, and they're sinners, you're a sinner, you have ups and downs, but God is faithful. And over the long haul, that trust and people seeing you in the ups and downs of life, in particular, I think your weaknesses. People relate to your struggles, your challenges, and your weaknesses. And as the pastor remains true to the Lord, first of all, and also to his calling in ministry, I think it provides an inspiring, aspirational model for people in their own ups and downs in their own life.
Man, those are good words. You talked about challenges and things you're overcoming. Certainly, anyone who's lived for any amount of time knows that anything worth doing could be hard, and there are challenges along the way. In ministry, no different. Certainly, the statistics aren't the things that remind us. We all have seen this play out, that in a ministry environment, people can cycle through, things can be challenging, and even pastoral roles, you see pastors walking away, being demoralized, or even sin impacting their opportunity to be able to lead. I guess I wonder, sitting in front and beside two people who have done it for a long time, when it got hard, what's kept you in it? In spite of all the hurdles or things that could have tripped you up, what has helped you to be steadfast, to have longevity in these ministry callings?
I think one of the big challenges of it is that the expectations that people have for us in this office is so varied. And we tend to get more criticism than we deserve, and we tend to get more credit than we should have. But the reality is, if you sense that God has directed you to a place, you stay there because you know that the deepening of the relationship is going to allow you to do things, maybe the 10th year in the ministry that you weren't able to do the first year.
Yeah.
However, there are times in ministry that I believe a pastor feels, I have taken this church to the very heights that I can, it needs a new voice. And I can remember being there one time.
Okay, so calling, I'm hearing you talk about a calling, a sense that God has put me here for a reason, and I'm supposed to follow him, not necessarily pay attention to the voices around me, but follow the calling God's calling me, and then follow him out when that time is there as well.
If I was to talk to a group of young, aspiring pastors, a seminary or something, I would emphasize to them that you have to decide right now that you're in the ministry for Jesus. And that sounds like the way everybody would be, but in reality, there's any number of reasons that somebody might go into the ministry. And there's a lot of people that go in, they like affirmation. They like to be in the spotlight. They like to talk and speak and whatever. But over time, those secondary motivations will fail you because people will fail you and you will fail yourself. And I think if our purpose in ministry is self-oriented, we won't last very long. In some ways, it reminds me of Peter when he got out of the boat, and as long as he looked at Christ, he was able to walk. But when he looked at it himself, or he looked at the waves and the circumstances, he quickly sunk. And ministry, I think, is a lot like that. And there's been times along the way that I've thought about quitting. I've secretly had a dream of being a coffee shop barista, and when I'm facing criticism or I'm super discouraged, I look at those people behind there and I think, oh, that'd be so great to be able to do that and not have to worry about all this other stuff. But I hope I can truly say that I am in this for Jesus' sake, and not even primarily for the sheep, because the sheep bite, and there's, the sheep don't get along, and the sheep got this issue and that. And I know that because I'm a sheep too. Yeah. But Jesus, his glory, his gospel, the Great Commission, these are the north stars of a pastor who is going to stay in it for the long run.
Man, so good talking about a motivation and a goal that can keep us really finding joy and purpose in any season and pastoral ministry, but in any calling for the glory of God, whether that's a role as a volunteer in your church environment or in your job, what you know God's called you into. Doing it for Jesus and out of a love for him, and then in love to the people around you, keep you going.
Ben, I've got a question for you because I have met your dad, and your dad has been in ministry a really super long time. I can't remember how long, but do you know the number?
I know it's something north of 40 years total and 30 years as a senior pastor at his local church.
Okay, so you've been the son, you've been up close.
Yeah.
How has he been able to remain in ministry so long?
You know, I think as a kid, certainly I don't know his tricks. I just knew his life. And I knew him as my dad, and I think maybe that hints at some of the answer, that there was a pace to his life. There were boundaries where he also was my dad, not only a pastor. My memories of him, I remember him preaching. I remember him in his office. I have memories of him at church because we were there all the time. But the memories that bring joy to me, the memories that are the easiest and fastest for me to remember are playing catch in the side yard and, the laughter around dinner tables and moments like that. So I think for him, and as an example to me, having a pace to your life that, with rest and with joy and with time investing in the family that God's called you to, that, you can't quit on them. They are the family that God's given you, even if you can follow God to a different church and church family. In that sense, we have to rest and we have to depend on God. We have to rest and invest in our families, not only because our church, it needs us less than we need God, and we need to honor our roles, but because our church needs us, we need to be able to have a pace that will last.
Could I add to that I think when a man is in a place for a long period of time, people get to know that man in ways that they can't in the first few days and months of ministry, but as the years roll along, one of the things I've always said is that I love to have people come to my office and I love to tell them what I did right. Most of them want to come and hear, what did I get wrong? What did I struggle with? What did I have to work my way through? And then I can walk with them in that way from longevity.
Don't our weaknesses speak so much louder than our strengths in that sense in so many ways? It's good. Well, ultimately, another thought?
I'll just add one more thing that Jesus describes in Matthew 25, the judgment and the words that we want to hear, well done, good and faithful servant. And, you think about well done, there's the affirmation, good is an assessment of the quality of the service that was offered. But faithfulness is a more objective duration. There's a lot of people that start off in ministry, they've got great ideas, they've got maybe great talent, but the true ministers, the true runners are the ones that finish well. Like Paul, I've fought the fight, I've finished the race, now there is waiting for me a crown of righteousness that Jesus will give to me. And that has to be in the heart of the pastor, in the grind of the day-to-day. Someday I want to hear, well done, good and faithful servant. And that applies not just to pastors, that applies to everybody. Yeah. Every calling, every vocation, every home and place that God has us, we want Jesus to affirm the quality of our service that we offer him and the faithfulness with which we've offered it. And so I'm at 25 years at Bethel. I'm still in the middle laps, in my opinion, God knows. But I want to finish strong. And that's where, guys like Pastor Gary, who is getting ready to retire here soon, is such an inspiration. Faithful to the task, faithful to his ordination, and running the last laps well. So I want to just say thank you, Pastor Gary, for that inspiring example. I hope to follow your example.
Been our privilege.
Thank you, Pastor Gary. Thank you, Dad. Thank you, Pastor Steve. And thank you, church family, for continuing to serve God with faithfulness. You know, Hebrews 10 tells us we can hold fast our confession of hope without wavering because he who promised, Jesus, is faithful. That's the anchor for being able to live a steadfast life, is knowing we have a Savior who is faithful perfectly to love us and follow us along the way, empowering us for the work that he's prepared for us to do. Thanks for joining us today, and we hope to keep you with us. Tune in for new sessions and conversations in the days to come. Feel free to like and share this conversation so that more people can benefit from our time together. Thank you all. We love you. Let's follow Jesus together.